Welcome back to Streets and Eats. This is episode number 79, and we're going to talk about our epic jaunt into Luang Prabang, Laos, that is.
Welcome to Streets and Eats, the travel and food podcast dedicated to taking our listeners to the sights, sounds, and flavors of fascinating places near and far, both on and off the beaten path. We're Jim and Corinne Vale, and we've been traveling internationally and domestically together for decades, visiting more than 90 countries in all 50 states in the USA. We'll share all of the local knowledge and food expertise we've gathered through years of living as expats in Asia and Europe, as well as traveling with families spanning multiple generations around the world. Join us each week for a new adventure. Okay, time for the trivia. See if I can stump you with this one.
Okay, what? Bring it on. Bring it on.
Okay, well, I thought of, Luang Prabang is, of course, it's famous for its temples and its monks. So I was trying to find a good question, like how many monks are there in Luang Prabang? But I could never find a definitive answer.
That's because the answer is a lot.
And nobody knows. They say hundreds.
Well, the thing is, as we found out, people are not monks for life in Southeast Asia. They're monks for education. They're monks for time frame for whatever reason, maybe in between high school and getting a job.
Their gap year.
I don't think that you can.
You can't.
You can put a number on it.
Hundreds. So I had to scrap that idea. And then I thought of how many temples, but I could never find a real answer for that.
Well, let me tell you what the answer to that one is.
Lots.
A lot. See, you can't stop me.
No. Okay, so let's see if you can answer the real trivia question with that same response. The Mekong River, of course, is the lifeblood of Southeast Asia. And yes, it does go right through Luang Prabang.
Mm-hmm.
How many countries are connected by the Mekong River? And what are they?
Well, I know for a fact the Mekong is in Vietnam because we've been there, done that.
That's one.
Also Laos.
That's
because
two.
we've done that. I would think in that area, I'm trying to think of the geography. China.
Mm-hmm. China.
Thailand.
You're up to 4.
Burma.
Myanmar. Same
Burma.
thing, right? 5.
Is there more?
There's one more, and you should know this one.
Oh, there's one more. I can do it.
Oh, shoot. I gave it away.
I should know this one. I can do this one.
Long silence ensues while she thinks about rivers in Southeast Asia.
Shh. You're trying to mess me up on purpose.
I'm trying to help you.
Fair. Why am I drawing a blank? I'm going to kick myself because I probably do know this answer. What is it?
You certainly do know this one. Cambodia.
Oh, duh. See, duh.
You've been there.
I've been there.
Okay. Yes. How many was that?
6.
6. You're right. Yeah. It actually starts, its headwaters are somewhere in Tibet, but they call that China where it starts.
Well, I've been to Tibet too. So
fed from the Himalayas and then goes all the way out to the South China Sea in Vietnam.
And it, like Jim said, I mean, the lifeblood is exactly what it is. I don't think we've been in any of those countries and not come across doing something important on the Mekong.
It's also the second most important and biggest biosphere on the planet after the Amazon.
Wow, that's impressive.
But it's not in the top 10 longest rivers. It's the 12th longest river.
Oh.
So there you go.
All about the Mekong.
The Mekong. And yeah, it does flow right near the city, right through. It doesn't really go through the city of Luang Prabang.
No, the city's on one side of it.
The city's built on its banks, and there is some like village kind of growing up on the other side. But
we're going to talk about the Mekong a little bit later.
Yeah, the Mekong will come up a little bit later.
Okay, so here's my thing. When we were planning what we were going to do over the course of the year, Laos did come up quite a bit because it's someplace that we've been all around, like literally all around. And I actually supposedly stepped into Laos and went to a market there when I went to Thailand the very first time, 20 years ago. But I never counted it because, come on, I crossed the river on a little boat. I went to this little market. I crossed the little river and went back to Thailand. I don't count that. There was no stamps. There was nothing that we actually did there except spend money. That doesn't count for me. It's like stopping at an airport. That doesn't count either.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyway, so we were like, well, why do you go to Laos? Why? And for us, why did we only go to Luang Prabang? Because obviously there's more to do in Laos than just Luang Prabang.
Well, like you said, we've been wanting to go to Laos. There's so much to do in the country. But we found it kind of hard to organize.
It was. It is less touristy than pretty much everything around it, except maybe Myanmar.
Yeah.
Which is, has a war going on. So
it's kind of off limits right now.
Right.
Well, for me, that old Asia charm, I mean, Laos, infrastructure has been kind of modernized in some areas. When you go into buildings, there's electricity, there's flowing water. But really, we're talking old Asia here. You aren't going to find anything like it anywhere else that I know of in Asia.
And after having been there, I would agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
But before you go, you don't really know that.
No, but people talk about how it's unspoiled and untouched and that sort of thing. So that's a good reason to want to go there.
Yeah. I mean, while we were there, we saw I think we saw one tourist bus. We didn't see hardly any tourists at all.
No.
And the tourists that we did see were like us. They were independent travelers. Mm-hmm. They were backpackers, particularly.
A lot of European younger kids. Well, not kids, but younger adults.
Well, everybody's younger than us,
That's
Jim.
right. Backpacking on their gap year or just in between jobs. We met lots of people like that. And they almost all came to Laos and fell in love with it and didn't want to go anywhere else or wanted to come back to Laos after being other places.
Yeah, we heard that a lot, actually. There were a few Americans there, but I definitely felt that we were outnumbered by Europeans. There were a lot more people from France, Germany, Netherlands.
And Australia, too.
And Australians. Yeah. I agree with you. But there were Americans there as well. Like you said, it's just charming. I mean, if I were going to sum up one word for Luang Prabang, I would say it's charming.
Yeah, I agree.
Charmant. They had like such a French influence for such a long time. I think that the French word charmant just kind of sums it up.
It's hard to be really positive about colonialism. In fact, I don't really want to be positive about colonialism, but what's left of colonialism that they've kept in the architecture and in some of the
food
traditions, I think that they've kept the best of what was forced on them. So I think that's pretty cool.
Anyway, so like we said, that it's really known for its temples. And I think, Luang Prabang itself, one of the reasons we decided to only go there is because, like I said, we were on this huge trip and we're trying to be slower travelers, which I don't know that we're always very successful at because we have always this huge long list of things to do. But we for some reason in Luang Prabang, we were very good at sort of narrowing it down and saying this was the World Heritage City. Mm-hmm. This was the place that everybody says they love. They said, Laos was great. Luang Prabang was wonderful. Laos was okay. But boy, did we love Luang Prabang.
We had a good time in Vientiane, but we didn't
want to leave Luang Prabang. So we were like, okay. I mean,
we're just going to
all signs lead to Luang Prabang.
That's right.
So that's why we did that.
Yeah, beautiful temples. It was inscribed, the whole city, the whole old town is inscribed on the World Heritage List for its temples, and it's just that religious way of life.
And I think sometimes when you're a World Heritage place, that can be a little bit of a negative because it brings in so many tourists. But in this case, their office was there. Everything was very clean. It had good signage. I think it was such a good example of being a stellar World Heritage place to go to.
They're definitely stewards to their heritage. For
exactly.
Sure. They limit the amount of building that can take place in the old town. Of course, how high things can be, whether or not you can demolish an old building and build a new building. So it really has maintained its history that way.
I think one of the things we struggled with was how much time to spend in Laos and specifically in this case, Luang Prabang. When we first started planning our trip, one of the things I wanted to do was another World Heritage site called the Plain of Jars, which basically is a field with a lot of jars in it.
Old stone jars.
And it looks cool. And we're like, we want to go there. But gosh, Jim was doing some research and I did try a little bit too, but it was just overwhelming. And for seasoned travelers like us, it was overwhelming.
Well, it was doable, but the amount of time it was going to take from where we were flying in and out of the country was impractical. It would have been like 2 full days of driving for about a couple of hours of doing things. And I'm sure we could have found more to do in the area, but it was still too full days of driving to get there.
Which meant that 3 days out of our 5 or 6 that we were spending there was all going to be doing this one trip, which I'm sure we would have had a great time. My sister was on board with it because it was the 3 of us traveling together. But we were like, yeah, let's just spend our time in Luang Prabang and get the most out of it. And I'm glad we did.
Yeah, because you can easily spend that much time there.
As we proved. There are other things to do in the country, Vientiane. There's a couple of other cities to go to, the Plain of Jars. If you're going to we spent a week there, but if you were going to do everything, I think you would be okay spending maybe 2 weeks there.
2 weeks, maybe 3.
I think we didn't go to Vientiane and we didn't go to the Plain of Jars. And even though we had so much fun doing what we did, I mean, there's more to do. So we might end up having to go back. I don't know. Mm-hmm. We'll see.
I would go back for sure because there's more of the country we haven't seen, like you said. So yeah, we just decided to hang out there in Luang Prabang and do everything there was to do. I wouldn't say we relaxed in the city,
but we didn't.
Even though it is a
rush.
Relaxing city. But yeah, there's no need to rush. I mean, you can easily spend a day just wandering through the old town, visiting the temples, and that sort of thing.
All right. So the next thing, again, a little bit not out of our comfort zone. That's not the right phrase. Just surprisingly hard was trying to figure out how to get there.
Just getting there.
Oh
my.
Well, we were trying to get there from Vietnam, which, by the way,
you're right. We were trying to get there from Vietnam when we thought we could take a bus from one point or a combination of train and bus because that is available. But we're looking at 28 hours of travel time. And that's just not really doable unless you are on this year-long trip type thing. So then we looked at an alternative would have been starting in Thailand and going from Thailand to Laos and then back to Vietnam. And that was really doable. On certain days of the week, you could fly from Chiang Mai right into Luang Prabang. And we had that ticket booked. We're like, yes, this is perfect on Lao Air. Until about 4 days before we were supposed to fly out of Chiang Mai, I get an email. Your flight's been canceled. I hope you have other plans. Because they didn't.
Yeah, and that was it. It was just canceled. This is the only time ever in all of our travels that we've had something canceled with no alternatives. And here's your next flight opportunity, and this is what we suggest you do, or this is how we fix this for you. Typically, when you're traveling and something like that happens, they fix it. You just have to be patient and deal with it. And it might put you back a little bit time wise, but no. This was your flight is canceled and it's on you to find something else.
Yeah. And so that's what we did. And luckily, it's not hard to fly in and out of Luang Prabang if you're leaving from Bangkok, for instance. So I think that's
really the only place that you can easily fly in and out.
So that's what we did. We just flew back to Bangkok from Chiang Mai, caught the flight into Luang Prabang. And other than, just having to deal with it all last minute, if it hadn't been last minute, or if the flight wasn't there at all from Chiang Mai, I would have thought anything really about it because of all that. It was like a last minute scramble while we're traveling, which can be hard to deal with depending on your internet and your current situation.
And for some reason, we couldn't really find a flight from Vietnam into Luang Prabang.
Yeah.
But there was a flight out of Luang Prabang.
Yes, to Hanoi.
Into Hanoi. And we're like, well, wait a minute. Where did it come from? I mean, we couldn't figure out how to get to it to get there, but we could get back. So that's what we did. We end up having to fly out of Bangkok into Luang Prabang. And then from Luang Prabang, we flew out of there back to Hanoi.
Yeah. So that's pretty much how you're going to get to Luang Prabang. If you're in the country, if you fly into Vientiane, there's a train you can take, or you can take the long bus. Or an inner country flight. But the only things really flying in and out of Laos and around the country in Laos are Lao Air, and it's expensive. It's an expensive flight. Flying to Luang Prabang, actually, we flew Air Asia into the country. So that is sometimes an option, like from Bangkok. But if you have to fly the Lao Air, it is pricey.
But it's worth it once you get there. So then when we get there, the next thing that you have to sort of figure out, right, is how to get around.
Of course.
And we had basically just come from Thailand. Well, okay, so We had just come from Vietnam to Thailand to Laos. Vietnam, getting around is easy in the cities as long as you don't want to go outside the city. So you can take a Grab, you can take all kinds of stuff, and it's so simple, so easy, and you get really sort of lackadaisical about it.
Yeah.
Go from that to Thailand, and it's a major pain in the arse. So we were happy to get into Luang Prabang, and transportation once again became pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, again, it's probably within the cities. So we didn't really have any trouble doing anything in Luang Prabang and going just right outside of Luang Prabang. Where it got more difficult and much more expensive is when we tried to do, like I said, the Plain of Jars. Right. But you can take a tuk-tuk, you can rent a motorbike. And of course, there's tours, lots of tours that you can take as well. And all of them were easy to maneuver, easy to pay for, easy to talk to the people. Super, super easy.
The one thing that was a little bit different than the other countries in Asia there was no good app that I could find that we could just call for a ride to pick us up. There's a new app that come out not too long ago that looks like it might be useful, but it wasn't working for us then. So it was nice that you could just walk out and find a tuk-tuk and let them know where you're going and get a price and maybe haggle a little bit. They were not expensive. We never talked to a tuk-tuk driver that was trying to rip us off or anything like that.
They were so easygoing.
Friendly and helpful.
Pretty much everybody we ran into was just easygoing.
Yeah.
I loved it.
And because it's an old town, an old city, if you stay in the right place, you can spend most of the time just walking around and get everywhere by foot.
In fact, we were there in mid-July. It was hotter than blazes. It was humid, very humid. And so we did take a lot of breaks, but we did walk a lot, actually. And it was, pretty much from one side of town to the other side of town took, I don't know, at the most 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, depending where you were. And there was plenty to do all along the way. So it wasn't like you were just walking to walk. You were walking and there was plenty to see along the way, or eat or stop and get a drink or what have you.
So that kind of leads into where to stay.
Yeah.
And there are some like high-end resorts a little bit further out of the city, all-inclusive, that sort of thing. Yeah, I mean, they're there. You can stay in them, but we don't recommend that. It's not where we stay. Where we stayed was the Villa Sirikili, which was right near the river at the bottom of the town, in the old town. So you're right there in the old town. And there's a lot of those little villas and very small family-run hotels in that area. That's a really good idea to stay there. There was one upscale hotel that was just past the night market.
Across from the post office.
Right across from the old post office, called the Avani. That was beautiful. Had a gorgeous. So if you're looking for a little more upscale, that would be the one I would pick, because it's right on the edge of the old town at the other end from where we stayed. And
we had a great time talking to the chef.
Oh, yeah.
He came out and talked to us for a good, I'm going to say 20 minutes.
Yeah.
We were just having coffee there.
Where was he from? Was he from Mauritius or Seychelles?
He was from Seychelles.
Seychelles, that's right.
Anyway, we do recommend kind of where we stayed if you're like us and accommodations aren't that important. Now, I have to say, after I had gotten there and we were relaxed and everything, we did go swimming at the falls, but I could have swam every day.
If we'd had
a pool, and we did not have a pool. So that was the only thing that I was kind of like wishing when I saw that pool that we had stayed there, because it was definitely just the whole vibe of the town was so relaxed and it was so hot that I think it would have made it just a little bit better to have a plunge at the end of the day. Would have been really cool. Whatever.
Yeah. So I would recommend that Avani. We didn't stay there, but we did spend a little time there, like you said, in the coffee shop and just checking out the grounds. And it was beautiful. And it was still right there.
And I had a little pool
near the old town. And you're not going to find a pool in, I don't think, any of the small, older villas and hotels in the old town itself. And,
which are quaint and beautiful in these old buildings, and the people are wonderful. And so that's an experience in and of itself that was well worth it. So I'm not complaining, but I did have pool envy. What can I say?
Pool envy.
In some ways, there's a lot to see. And in some ways, there's not a lot to see. There are temples, a few more temples, and then around the corner are more temples. So you can go to temples. And we did. I think we templed quite extensively.
Quite well, actually. Yeah.
And we enjoyed them. Don't get me wrong. They're not all the same. They have similarities, but they're all a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
There was dogs in them that would come up to you. The monks were smiley. They didn't always talk to you because I don't think they knew English, and that was okay. But they would smile, and you always felt welcome, and it was beautiful, and the decorations are lavish, and there was maintenance going on here. It was like someplace was really living there. It was a livable spot as opposed to like a museum type area.
Right.
So those were
just there for tourists.
It was very, very, very nice. You don't have to pay to go into them. Just very easygoing and beautiful and Instagram worthy, I guess. And of course, I think one of the things that really draw people to the town, one of the UNESCO points is the almsgiving in the morning.
Yeah.
And so the very first morning that we woke up and we were there, we went to experience this ourselves.
And that is, like you said, that's probably the number one draw for the tourists there.
And that's where we saw the most tourists, actually.
For sure. And actually, we did see some tours there as well.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Tours.
It's really popular among the Thai people and Chinese people, especially if they're Buddhist as well. Then they oftentimes want to come and be part of the almsgiving. But for most of us who are just there, it's really an incredible experience to be out there so early in the morning and watch the monks just
all lined up,
proceeding in one long, continuous line in their
saffron robes,
vibrant,
so beautiful,
saffron copper color robes, and just going through the whole almsgiving experience. And that was pretty cool. I would say that's kind of for me a once in a lifetime experience as well.
Yeah,
because I wouldn't want to have not done it, but I also don't need to go do it again.
And we decided that morning actually, and we said, we could come tomorrow morning. We could actually participate because we thought, we're here for the first day. We wanted to take photos. We wanted to just see how it went. And then maybe if we really felt the need to be a participant, which anybody can participate, you just buy the foodstuffs, and there's plenty of people selling it along the road, and it's cheap. It's super cheap. And then you sit on a little chair, and as the monks go by, you would put your foodstuffs in their bucket. But I didn't really feel like that was something I needed to do. Not because I had to get up early. I'm a morning person anyway, so that wasn't a problem for me. I just felt once was enough, and I also felt that it was maybe a little bit more commercial than I would have liked. Because there were other tourists there, and there were some people, they have this sign, they close off the road, and they have a sign at a few of the different ends anyway that you enter that tells you how to be respectful and how to act, and not to get participating or not to get into the monks' faces, and stand back when you're taking photos. And it's a quiet time. It's not a time to be rowdy. And over here, these people are just chatting away. Who cares what's going on? They're talking about their kids back home. And over here, this lady, I swear to God, she just wanted to know where I was so she could stand in front of me the whole time. No matter where I moved, she'd get right in front of me. I swear to you, she was driving me crazy. But I don't know. I felt it was beautiful in some ways. And in other ways, I thought, yeah, once is good enough for me.
It's sad, but that may be the first thing to change for the worst through tourism and modernity.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe that's it. But you could almost see that change happening. And that was a bit sad. Yeah, I agree with that.
One of my favorite things, if not my favorite thing, were the waterfalls out at the national park.
Okay, well, these waterfalls crack you up because first of all, before you go to Luang Prabang, you're going to know about the waterfall. Quang Si Waterfall. That is the place to go. You get to Luang Prabang. Doesn't matter if you're in the hotel. Doesn't matter if you're at the restaurant. Doesn't matter if you're looking at the tourist thing. If you're going to do it, hey, you can go to the National Museum and the waterfall. You can go on the Mekong River and the waterfall.
Every tour.
You can, I swear to you.
Combine something with the waterfall.
Even the cooking lessons I looked at were like, and we'll take you to the waterfall. I'm like, you don't need to take me to the waterfall. I can get to the waterfall by myself. So you're going to the waterfall if you go to Luang Prabang.
You are. And you have to.
And the funny thing about that is when you hear about things like that, sometimes they don't live up to your expectation.
It's true.
Because you're going to go through the gauntlet of vendors.
Souvenirs,
you're going to have to throw, say no to 15 million touts. You just know that No matter what you do, there's going to be people in your pictures. All these things that are going to make it not such a good experience. Well, guess what? There was a gauntlet. You did have to pay. It was amazing.
Yeah.
We loved it.
There were people.
It was well worth it every single bit of the way. So it was kind of funny that I was kind of expecting it not to be as good as everybody said it was, because it was literally, you could not get a massage and go to the waterfall.
That's true.
Go see the elephants and go to the water. I can't tell you. I should have taken a picture of every time we had that on a sign.
Every time that we talked to a tuk-tuk or arranged a ride.
Waterfall?
Can I take you to the waterfall tomorrow? Every time. The drivers were super friendly. They weren't trying to rip you off, but they were also going to let you know. Money. They were also going to let you know that, hey, I can also drive you anywhere you want to go whenever you need me to. So that was, I agree. I was prepared not to like the waterfalls. We got there, and this is the pro tip for the waterfalls. Go early.
Early as you can. Get
there as early as you can. Check the current opening times and get there right at the opening time.
Or 10 minutes before.
Or
seriously.
Before. Don't worry. Yeah, you want to go swimming at the waterfalls, but just because it's 9 o'clock in the morning doesn't mean you can't go swimming. It's still hot enough to go swimming at 9 o'clock in the morning. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, it's true. We had such a good time. So first of all, when I say gauntlet, I am not kidding. It's just like the Great Wall of China. If you've ever been there, you can't turn around and not see a vendor before you go through the gate. Now, once you go through the actual gate, you're fine. Yeah. But right up into the gate, there's vendor after vendor after vendor after vendor.
But they weren't
pushy. They weren't pushy
at all.
But you walk, and as soon as you go through that gate, the serenity sort of falls down on you. One of the first things we saw was this beautiful black orchid, and it just kind of helped you breathe. And not to sound like cliche or anything, but it just was a breath of fresh air. It was just beautiful. And then you start walking, and then the next thing that happens, which is a little bit kitschy but fun at the same time, is you come across the bear sanctuary.
Yeah.
Which is a sweet thing. They've rescued these bears, and they've given them a place to live, and they feed them, and they have volunteers from all over the world. And that was cool.
And there's no expectations from visitors at all.
Yeah, which is unusual.
Yeah. But if you are interested and you want to donate, of course they're there to take it. But we spent, on the way back down, a good, I think 30, 35 minutes, 40 minutes just watching the bears and chatting with one of the volunteers there. Never did she ask us for anything or want us to get involved in any way. Just talking to her and talking about the bears, which I thought was pretty cool. So you get through the bears and you continue walking up, and you get to the first
place where you could possibly go swimming.
First place for swimming. And there's a little log going up above the little pond where the first fall falls in. And clearly it's been where people have been jumping off. But there's nobody there yet when we got there.
Well, there's
a few people there.
There were the whole time we were in that area, there was maybe a total of 6 people off and on.
There was an older French couple, probably our age, maybe a little bit older.
I think older, yeah.
That looked interested in swimming, but weren't sure if they could or how to do it. So we got it there, and I'm taking off my shirt. Yeah,
Jim's stripping on the way up.
I'm climbing up on that log, and I'm jumping into the water.
And I was like, are you crazy to jump into this water from that log? I hope, because you don't know how deep it is.
No, there's nobody there to give us super clear. You could see all the way to the bottom. It was obviously deep enough. And and like I said, it was pretty clear that people had done that.
Well, as soon as Jim does it, this old man, and like I say, he's at least a decade older than us. He's like, I'm doing it too. And he says, to his credit, he did it.
He did. And he says, oh, thank you so much. I wasn't sure. I wanted to do it, but I wasn't sure if I could. Once I saw you, I knew I could do it. I'm like, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
If Jim can do it, anybody can do it.
Okay. But there was also the little fish in the water, like the Dr. Fish that would nibble at your dead skin, which I'm not a big fan of.
I don't mind that at all. I think it's kind of cool.
But it's tickly, I guess.
Yeah.
But so then, it freaks me out.
And the pools are beautiful. They're that turquoise color, and the waterfalls are really pretty. They're very sort of terraced.
Yeah.
and they come down, and I mean, it was a beautiful place to go swimming. I think we swam there for about up to an hour. I don't know how long exactly, but
altogether we were there probably about 3 hours, 3.5 hours.
I think for the total thing. After that, there was another place we could go swimming, and some people were, but we were like, no, we don't want to.
Yeah, but by that time it was getting a little bit more crowded.
Yeah. But there was, so we continued up the path. There was a little cafe. We stopped and had ice cream and coffees. And then the path kept going and going and going. And it finally comes to this little bridge, and the bridge is beautiful. There's butterflies and there was flowers and beautiful waterfall, lots of people.
The largest waterfall is coming right there.
And then there was still a path that went. So we start going up the path, and I think we climbed the path straight uphill for probably another 25 minutes or so. And it was going to keep going. And we're like, to heck with this. And we turned around because it wasn't, at that point, you weren't seeing the waterfalls anymore. You were above the waterfalls. So
at that point, you're just hiking, which if you're going out, if you want to go for a longer hike, it's there. It's available. It's definitely a harder hike.
Oh, it was rough.
You lose the main trail, which was I think pretty accessible for almost everybody at the bridge. And then it's hiking.
It wasn't wheelchair accessible, but
yeah, I guess not.
But it definitely was walking.
Easy walking.
Yeah, pretty easy walking.
Yeah, until that point. And then, if you're looking for more hiking, it did eventually come out back to the river up above, and there were a few more waterfalls. But at that point, you're seriously hiking. But that is a good way to get away from other people if you do get there when it's crowded. So that's something to keep in mind. To get to the waterfalls, like you said, any tour you sign up for can be combined with the waterfalls.
Oh, if you're going to Luang Prabang, you're going to Kwangsi Waterfall.
Yeah.
End of conversation.
I would not recommend those tours because you want to control when you're going to get to the waterfall. You want to get there in the morning before it gets crowded, which means, like we did, finding a tuk-tuk driver and asking how much it's going to cost. You don't want to take the smaller motorcycle tuk-tuks because it's a pretty long trip. And they're not very comfortable, the little motorcycle tuk-tuks. But the truck tuk-tuks are the ones you're looking for, and they're everywhere. And you can easily arrange a pretty affordable, I would even say cheap, trip out there and ask them to wait for you. They'll wait for you. And then we even asked ours to stop at one of the rice paddy restaurants on the way back. And he went in and had lunch and waited for us. And then we went back into the city.
Yeah.
So really
they're
super
very
affordable.
easygoing and very easy to do. And I think even though I guess I didn't have high expectations, it very much exceeded my expectations, and I loved Kwangsi. The other thing we did water-wise was we took a Mekong River cruise. Like we said earlier on, Mekong River is super important, and there is like a boat dock where you organize your river cruises.
Well, you can do it as a tour, of course.
Of course, you can do everything as a tour.
And that's naturally the easiest way to do it. But
here's the thing about the tours that you buy there and do that with. You're going to pay for one person the same that we paid for three.
Yeah, that's right.
So if money is no object and you don't want to have to worry about, haggling for a price or trying to communicate, then sure, do that. It's not a bad way to do it. It's easy. But I mean, it was also not that hard to do it the way we did it.
No, we just went to the public boat dock and talked with them about the prices. Now, if you are looking to save some money, what you can do is when you agree on a price, you pay that price for the boat. And then if you can find other people that want to go with you, then you can just bring more people with you and have them compensate you. So that's one way to do it. We went, it was just the three of us on the boat and the driver, of course. Those really narrow, long river boats that are really an experience in and of themselves, just to ride on the Mekong River on those boats. That was pretty cool. They're very loud and you feel like you're on the river because you're only inches from the water.
It was a true longboat.
A longboat.
The one that we took is we first stopped at, and I think I've got the name right, the Bizongkong village.
Yeah.
And then we also went to the Paku cave. So the first thing we do, and it's pretty much what everybody does. You could stop. There's also an elephant place to stop at. And
right.
I think it's second
that was the
cave.
other thing they always wanted to tack onto every tour was the elephant riding.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, thank you.
Not as much as Huangzi, but quite a bit.
Right.
But anyway, so at the village, we thought, again, sometimes we're a little bit negative about things. I mean, who isn't? And so we expected that we would get to this village and we would again be bombarded by touts and people selling us things. Well, we weren't. No one met us at the boat, number one. And the first thing that we saw when we were climbing the steps up into the village is the whiskey seller, one of the whiskey sellers. And he was pretty low key, but he probably was the pushiest of all the vendors that we came to. But in saying that, he wasn't really that pushy.
No, and he was friendly. He was showing us how they make the whiskey. He was giving us free tastes. I really got the impression that if we bought something, he'd be happy. If we didn't buy something, he'd be happy. I went ahead and bought a little bottle anyway.
And we did buy it. And here's the thing. And this is why they're not pushy, because there really isn't that many places like that. And so I'm pretty sure that every tourist who takes the Mekong River cruise is going to buy something.
Stop in there and they'll
they
buy
may
something.
not buy from him. They might buy from his neighbor, but everybody wins. So it was pretty nice because there was only a few whiskey sellers that I saw, but there were a lot of weavers.
Yes, mostly it was a textile village.
Yeah, and we saw, and they were beautiful. And they were really pretty. And you did have to pay attention because they were selling both machine-made ones and the ones that they made. So you wanted to make sure that you were getting ones that they made, which were pretty obvious. And they were inexpensive. And they were all different colors. And they were just really sweet people. And they let us take any kind of photo that we wanted to take. And we had a good time just wandering around the village. We ended up kind of making a loop to come back to the boat, and we went. One of our last stops was the town temple, which was cute. Had a lot of quirky things in it, and it was a good stop. It was a much better stop than maybe I would have expected.
Yeah, I agree. I was definitely pleasantly surprised. I wouldn't have wanted to stop at more villages and do the
one
same
was
thing,
enough for sure.
One was definitely enough. And from there, we went to the Paco Caves, which are like these old caves on the side of the river that became Buddhist sanctuaries. And so they're like every crevice and every inch of the ground inside the caves are covered with different Buddha statues. So it's pretty cool. A lot of stairs and it's super hot. The lower cave, I really enjoyed the climb up to it. I thought it was pretty peaceful and beautiful. But climbing up to the upper cave, it's like, because it was farther from the river and farther from the control area, there was a small family there that were, I guess the kids weren't really begging, but they're really pushy. They were trying to sell.
Well, one kid was. The
rest of the kids were
trying to
sell things. And yeah, the one little boy just wouldn't leave you guys alone.
Yeah.
So that cave, I mean, you're there, so you're going to walk up there. Just be ready if they're there. Just say hi, smile, but don't engage. That's really the only way to deal with that.
It was fine. I mean, it was hot. Laos is hot. So by the time you got halfway up to the second cave, you were sweating bullets.
You're right.
But it was nice and it was different and it was in Laos. So it's something we'd never done before and we enjoyed it. So we basically did the cave and then we got back in the boat and then we headed back to Luang Prabang. This is where the funniest thing happened.
Oh, yeah. Because we knew that the weather was coming, that there was a rainstorm coming. And so as we're floating back down the river, we could see behind us the clouds building higher and higher and darker. And pretty soon, of course, the sheets of rain started coming down around. First, they were over on one side of the river and covering the rice paddies and the water buffalo. And then they're on the other side. And then the rain's coming right down the river, right at us. And the next thing you know, we are like in a deluge of solid water falling all around us. But that's not enough because then the lightning strikes. And I'm talking, it struck
within feet.
Of
Let's
our
put
boat.
it this way. You know how you're supposed to be able to count the seconds from the boom, and then you know how far away you are from the lightning strike. There were no seconds between the boom.
No, I think
it was immediate.
I think I heard the boom before I saw the flash.
Oh my gosh. It was a bit scary
possible.
because, I mean, these boats are sturdy enough. They've weathered the storm before, I'm sure.
And it's got a cover, so we're not taking on water.
We're not really getting wet. We were getting a little sprinkled on here and there, a little splashy here and there, but for the most part, we weren't wet at all. So that was
and
fine.
we had our umbrellas out to cover the sides of the boat. That's right.
Yeah, but boy, when that lightning struck, and I mean, it struck right beside us, we were all like, whoa,
wow,
it's time to go home.
So I quickly looked up at the driver. Like, how did he take
chuckled.
that? He was just like, he looked back at us like, are they okay? Because this is normal for him. A regular summer storm.
Let's say it this way. We got our money's worth.
Yeah.
We enjoyed the boat ride. It was pretty fun.
That was a pretty good boat ride.
So the rest of the things that we did there was a night market, more temples, of course. There's a national museum. There was a traditional arts and ethnology center. And these are all things that we went to because it was such a laid back town that we would wander in. We'd look around and, you know, like at the ethnology center, we enjoyed the musical instruments and learning the language. And there was even kids activities, but there was, it was just a different feeling than when you're like, okay, I'm at the National Museum of Singapore. I've got to like rush to this part and look at it. This is the history. And then no. It was just so laid back and so easy and so fun. And the National Museum was a little bit more like that. They got a little bit, they were a little bit picky on what you wore in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They wouldn't let Jim in.
You definitely can't wear shorts. Well, you're not supposed to wear the shorts in the temples or any of the royal palaces or anything like that anyway. But mine were kind of below the knee a little bit. I thought that might be enough. And if they had said something, I would have put on some pants or got something to cover them. But they never said anything. And even when we went to the lockers, which is where you had to go later if you had to buy pants or something, they sent you back there. But nobody there said anything. So it wasn't really obvious that it was going to be a problem until we got up to the actual museum entrance. And then they're like, you can't come in. Go back to the locker room.
And Jim's like, I'll just wait.
I'll just wait for you guys. The grounds were pretty. I enjoyed walking around.
It was worth going to.
I've been in palace museums before. I didn't really see anything that looked unique or worth the effort of walking all the way back
through the heat. In the heat. That was
to put on long pants.
Yeah.
And then come back. No, I just waited for you guys. But
we did enjoy it. I mean, I thought it was well worth it, but I also would not have made the choice to go back and change and then come back again. So I totally get it.
Anytime you're in Southeast Asia and you're going to any of those places like Thailand or Laos, especially.
Vietnam is not so picky about it. Vietnam is not like that, but
not at all.
But both Laos and Thailand, you really should not be wearing skimpy clothing. They will not let you in.
It's not respectful. So now, one thing we did do whenever the heat would get too much for us, a little too oppressive, you just stop into an air conditioned
massage parlor
and get a foot massage for a good hour. It's a great way to spend an hour in the highest heat point of the day
for $5 a person or whatever it was.
For super
ridiculous.
Cheap. Okay. Of course, we also ate while we were there.
Ate. Oh my gosh, we had such a good time. I really think that we enjoyed the food scene in Luang Prabang quite a bit. The Laotian food restaurants. Okay, first of all, most of the food was very Thai-like. If you've been to Thailand, you'll know this. It was same, but different. It was like Thai, but it wasn't at all like Thai. I mean, I don't know how to.
Slightly different flavors, some very similar ideas.
Even some of the names were the same, like khao soi.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the same dish by any stretch of the imagination. It just was similar.
Yeah, but we had some really good food.
Yeah, we tried some things that we'd never heard of before. I think my favorite thing we tried on the whole trip was at a little cafe on the river, overlooking the river. And it was called fried Mekong River weeds.
Yeah.
And it was a picture, because it was a picture menu of these. It looks like what do you call, like nori, nori
the seaweed
sheets.
wraps.
Seaweed wraps with like sesame seeds on them. That's what it looked like. Didn't taste like that.
No.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't great. But it was definitely different. And I'm glad that we got to try it. And later on, I was very proud that we had tried that, because we were asked a couple of times and we're like, yep, we've tried it.
Yeah. Have you had the river weeds?
Yep. Of course we have.
If someone had asked me before I had them, I would have said, why would I eat river weeds? But I actually kind of enjoyed them. They're like crispy, and you put them in your mouth and start chewing, and they kind of dissolve in your mouth. I enjoyed them. And they're probably a really good source of vitamin C. And
we tried a lot of other things too. Some of the good restaurants that we went to, probably the nicest restaurant we went to was called Monde de Laos.
Oh, it was beautiful.
And we had heard about this restaurant before we went there from a guy who has been to Luang Prabang quite a few times. And we met him at the Duck Stop in Vietnam.
That's right.
And so this was definitely on our radar, and it was something that we had made sure that we were going to do. We made a reservation and we went there. And we eat early, so we didn't really need to make a reservation.
That's true.
But by the time we left, it was starting to fill up. It's on UNESCO land. The restaurant's built on 3 gorgeous lotus ponds. And the entire space is just, stunningly beautiful.
Yeah. The design, the layout, everything about it is like, you feel like you're in a art piece.
I think you felt like you were in a movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it was,
like
it was not that it was fake, because it didn't feel fake, but it was just so luscious.
Yeah.
So luxurious.
Now, it was a little bit more expensive.
It was a lot more expensive than anything else, actually.
Than like some of the little roadside places we would eat. And
but it was a different experience too.
And they had kind of the same foods, but they were, of course, elevated and with the best possible ingredients. So I really liked the lap mu ping. That was my favorite thing. The charcoal pork balls.
I think they were my favorite thing too.
Yeah,
they were so good. And that was like the first one of the. Well, we had an amuse-bouche, which was delicious, but I have no idea what it was.
I can't tell you what it was.
They may have told us, but we didn't retain that.
But it's always nice to get a amuse-bouche, something free at the beginning of the meal that you weren't expecting. And if it's delicious, it's that much better. And it was. We also had the buffalo, because you see water buffalo.
Mm-hmm. Buffalo is a big thing
everywhere.
In Laos. I thought that we ate it more there than we seem to have it in other places we've been.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had it. We had it there grilled, like chunks of buffalo. We had
buffalo skin.
We had here the buffalo like shaved in really thin steaks that was then fried in a wok. That was really good. We had a buffalo stew. Yeah,
we had quite a bit of buffalo. We had some good sticky rice. The sticky rice in Laos was probably different than any rice I've had anywhere else. They had different color rices, and it was very sticky. And they always served it in this really beautiful. And I wanted to buy one, and I just never got around to it. But their rice dishes were a little
like
round basket, and everybody gets their own little basket
with a cover.
With a cover, yeah, it's just really cute. I wish I'd gotten one, but I
should have. We'll have to go back.
Yeah, we'll have to go back.
So all the food there was just delicious. They also had some really good cocktails.
And they had good cocktails and the fish. That's probably the only place I think that we had fish, and we enjoyed it. Panin fish.
Oh, yeah. It's like marinated, wrapped in banana leaf, and then grilled. That was really good. I like that.
Another restaurant we enjoyed, Jim already mentioned once, was we did a rice patty restaurant on the way back
from the waterfalls.
Huangsi waterfalls. And this place, we just wanted to go there because of the location. It was all location.
Yeah.
Actually, most of the actual Laotian restaurants that we went to or saw, everything had the same menu. They had the same 20 dishes on it. This one had about the same with a lot of drinks and stuff, but it was out in the middle. It was built on a wooden walkway out through the rice fields and these little huts, and it was just gorgeous. It was blue sky. It was hotter than blazes, but because you had it covering over you, it wasn't so horrible. And it was just really beautiful, and we really enjoyed it. And we had, coconuts, and we got a real Asian experience there. It was really nice.
That was pretty good.
We didn't have anything real special to eat. Their menu was very kind of
Very
normalized.
similar to everything else. Fried noodles, noodle soup.
Rice noodles, whatever. The other place we ate at, because the other two places that I'm going to mention, we had pizza and we stopped at quite a few little Laotian restaurants, but we ate at two French restaurants. One of them was the Elephant Restaurant. And when we were looking at reviews and stuff, it had some of the highest reviews in the whole town. And so we went there, and it was definitely a French menu. Now we're in Laos, so it's not exactly like you would get it in France, but it was good food and we enjoyed it. And it was also packed. There was lots of people there. But the other place, the last place that we mentioned, we went to every single day we went.
La Benetton, the French cafe and bakery, which was right near one of the main temples on the main street.
And it was right around the corner from our
right
hotel.
Around the corner from the hotel.
So that made it nice and easy.
And now, to put a little more perspective on it, our hotel's breakfast was not really anything.
It wasn't anything to write home about. It was okay.
It was food. And the coffee was, I think it was coffee.
It was instant.
But so that very first day when we got up early and we went to the almsgiving, that's when we found La Benetton. And of course, it's a coffee shop. They've got baguettes. They've got croissant.
And they were the best croissants we had in Southeast Asia.
Yeah, they were very good. So that became our favorite morning place very quickly. And we went there, like I said, I think every day.
We went there almost not just in the morning.
That's true.
It became the place one of the places that because it was on the way back to our hotel. So if we were out for the day wandering through the temples, which we did every day, and it was time for a break, we would go there. The fans would be on. It wasn't air conditioned, but it was lots of fans.
Very breezy.
Pointing right at the tables. And it had good lunches. It had, like I said, it had good French pastries. And it had good coffees and good juices. I love a juice. I love juice.
It was just a comfortable.
It just was
great place to sit.
I read once from a blogger that they always try to travel so slow, and then they find a place and they like to become quote unquote regulars there. Well, you're only regular for the amount of time that you're there and how often you go. But we definitely became regulars, and I think that's kind of cool because we walk in and they would know who we were. Now, we did not order the same thing every time. In fact, we pretty much went through the entire menu. And
it was all good.
But a lot of times, you would, don't you though? You go to a place and you say, I like this. So you order that again the next time. But no, we ordered something different every time. But they did recognize us, and it was really, it just felt, it was a nice, cozy little place to go. Our big last hurrah in Luang Prabang was one of the main reasons I wanted to go. I always do a cooking lesson in every place. And I had found really only one. There was a couple places that did cooking lessons, but there was only one that really met my criteria. And that is, it has to be a private lesson with just the people that I bring.
In a home kitchen.
So that you're there by yourself with the people alone. Nobody else to bother you. And so I found him on Facebook, Luang Prabang Home Cooking Experience. And surprise, surprise, guess who else had found him? Anthony Bourdain.
That's right.
Yeah. So
Which we didn't know when we booked.
Yeah. He thought the reason we booked it was because of Anthony Bourdain. And it was not. It was because of hitting all of my things that I think are important. But I did love hearing about the story of Anthony Bourdain. Yeah. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Anyway, his name, the guy who runs it is named Mr. C, but it's not just him. It's his whole family and his friend and his cousin and whoever else.
The kids.
Yeah, the kids. They have, they live outside of Luang Prabang, and they go pick you up at your hotel. So you don't have to worry about.
They take you to the market to buy the fresh produce that you're going to need for the day.
And we were at the market. Like, we've done those kind before where you go to the market first. And a lot of times you're traipsing through this market and they go in there, buy their stuff, and they say, oh, and here's the eggplant. And then they keep going, oh, no. It was, we're going to get the eggplant. We're going to make this dish with it. This is how you pick an eggplant. This is,
it was really good.
It was really just wonderful. Just really wonderful. And we were probably at the market a good 45 minutes at least, a lot longer than I expected.
Yeah, I think we bought everything there that we needed for the meal. Like, we didn't use their pantry at all. They bought everything that we needed to cook all of the dishes at that market.
And we did cook all those dishes. It was quite a few dishes.
Yeah, like 5 dishes at the end.
And then you get there. So you're picked up in a van, you go to the market, and then you get to his quote unquote house. Well, it's not just a house. It's kind of like a complex.
Yeah.
Because there was at least 2 houses.
Mm-hmm. At
and
least
he built these
3
houses.
families living there.
Yeah. And he built these houses. And the place where we did the cooking was an outdoor kitchen, which is traditional in Laos.
Right.
And it was just beautiful.
It was right on the edge of a field. There's water buffalo over on the side, walking around in the one area. In fact,
The chickens kept walking through.
Yeah. Banana trees growing all around, flowers, of course. And it was an open air kitchen, but of course it's covered. So we're in the shade the whole time.
And it had fans going.
And it's breezy and there's fans going. So we never really got too hot.
Nope.
We are cooking on charcoal. I guess they're like a traditional charcoal barbecue. But they're not like a barbecue.
Like a brazier.
We would think of.
Like a brazier.
Yeah.
It's like a
earthenware.
conical little earthenware.
Like a pot that you put the fire in. Yeah. So we had to learn about building the fire and how to tend the fire. And then, of course, we just started immediately chopping and mixing and pounding. I think I pounded more things in the mortar and pestle that day than I have ever done, like all the times of my life combined. Making they don't really call it a sambal because that's not the term they would use, but it's the same idea where there's like garlics and chilies and onion and eggplant and herbs that you're just smashing up and turning into like this paste. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed all the cooking that we did.
So it was just the 3 of us, Jim and Ernestine and me. And so, and the whole time, we're learning about their family and we're learning about the foods and we're learning about how he started his business and just what goes into everything that we're doing and where we were exactly and how he got this land and how he built the houses and just fascinating information. In the meantime, we're trying foods. We're making foods that, first of all, we didn't really know about before we came to Laos.
Yeah.
And secondly, unfortunately, we did the cooking lesson the last day we were there. And the only regret that I have is that we didn't do it the first day that we were there because we may have had a little bit more insight as to what to order the following days.
That's true.
But oh well. I mean, it is what it is.
And we were cooking with things that we've definitely never cooked with before, let alone some things that we've never even heard about before.
Yeah. Well, here's one of the things I learned. Now, if you have ever been to the United States and you have Asian food and you have bamboo in them, it is disgusting. I don't know. If you like it, that's fine. But
bamboo shoots.
But bamboo shoots in the States are these white
I was going to say
discs.
they're like not even white.
They're like this creamy disc that's hard as a rock and
disc
has
or
no
rectangle.
flavor.
Yeah. They're crunchy and chewy and not in a good way. I agree with you.
They're not my favorite things.
But we had bamboo
soup,
young bamboo heart soup, where we had
to completely prepare the bamboo.
We took the bamboo shoots and trimmed off all the hard outer shells until you get down to the heart, and it was tender and delicious.
And it had its own taste.
Yeah.
And maybe the bamboo shoots we have are because they're canned or something, but these were. I'm gonna say I don't like bamboo. I don't like any bamboo that I've ever had except for the bamboo in Laos. And I loved that bamboo.
And that was in a bamboo soup with all kinds of other green herbs and lettuces.
Delicious. It was
leaves,
delicious.
Things we couldn't really identify.
Because there were a lot of green things.
Yeah. We would talk about the names. We'd get the name in Laotian and then we'd look it up and we would get like the scientific name. So that doesn't really help us.
Yeah. At any rate, who knows what we're eating? It was good and clean and beautiful and delicious.
It was fun. I don't know that we could completely recreate any of the
them,
recipes
period.
Just because of the lack of ingredients, if nothing else. But we still loved doing it.
Yeah.
Well, we also had steamed fish that we wrapped ourselves. We wrapped in banana leaf packets.
And we'd never done that before. So it was really kind of fun to learn how to make the leaf packets and close them. And Jim did you do it upside down or inside out or something?
Well, you have to have the leaf sitting the right way before you start packing it. Then you have to wrap it. It has to be very tight. You have to secure it the right way.
It was funny.
I think I did screw up my first one, but after that,
he gets it pretty quick. One of the things that they gave us for a snack, this is where the buffalo skin came in, is we take a little break. We've started the soup and we've got the rice going and got a lot of chopping done. They're like, okay, it's time for a break. So luckily they didn't pull out the cigarettes. That would have been gross. No one smoked that I saw. But anyway, it was buffalo skin, and they had charred the buffalo skin. They showed us how they made it. You take the buffalo and you lay it on the grill and it turns black.
Oh, you put it right in the fire.
Yeah. And then they kind of like peel it. And then what you end up with is like this. It looks like a candy. It looks like one of those candies that has
translucent.
Yeah. It with like a little harder shell on the outside.
Yeah.
And it's chewy and it doesn't taste bad, but it's chewy and
it's chewy.
I couldn't.
And hard.
I was like, how are they swallowing this? Like, I never got it to a point where I could like swallow it without choking to death. But it didn't taste bad. I mean, I didn't mind it for that. And then, of course, you chase it. Of course, this is the important part. You don't just eat buffalo skin. You got to have Lao whiskey with it.
That's right.
So it was so funny because the mom, who didn't speak a lot, she did a lot of speaking and then someone translated for her, but she was eating that buffalo skin like there was no tomorrow. She just thought that was the best stuff. And then she just would have that rosy little smile and she's like, let's take another drink. It was just too much fun. Really enjoyed it. And then we made like the more immediate foods. Like we had a barbecue pork skewer that was delicious. And there was nothing actually very special about that. It was pork. It was a skewer. It was
cooked
good.
Over a fire.
It was grilled meat. Who doesn't love grilled meat? And then, but we did make a pork stew with monkey ear mushrooms and eggplants and some kind of pepperwood or something.
Pepperwood root.
Pepperwood.
Which is not the pepper plant, because that's a little vine that the pepper berries grow on. This is just a tree that grows in Laos that they call the pepperwood. And because the bark tastes a little peppery. So it adds a unique flavor to the stew. It definitely did do that. But I'd never seen anything like that before. And of course, we had that eggplant sambal. And of course, we each had our own little basket of sticky rice.
Which was way too much.
So we also got to learn how to make the sticky rice, which was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, we did. We made a feast.
And of course, we made way too much of everything.
Yeah.
And we all sat down afterwards with a couple of the family members and just ate and
talked.
We could eat no more.
At least I think we spent a good 45 minutes to another hour there just eating the lunch that we had made.
Eating and talking.
Altogether, I mean, our lesson I think lasted something like almost 4 hours. And it cost us, I mean, it was one of the more expensive things that we did. It cost, I think, $30 a person. But I thought it was well worth it. And actually,
pretty good price.
That's a lot cheaper than you would find it in most countries.
Yes.
And I personally know that that's just a wonderful thing to do. It's well worth it. And this proved it again. So that was our trip to Laos. We basically, after that, we went back and, relaxed and
got the next flight out.
And we didn't
the next day.
We went right into Vietnam and finished up our Vietnam sojourn.
But I really do have to say that I enjoyed Luang Prabang probably the most of all the places we went on that trip. Just for, it's like you step back in time.
Yes,
everything's
for sure.
a little bit slower, a little bit quieter. And let's face it, Southeast Asia can be in your face with the noise, with the people, all of that. So that I really found it to be a very calm and just a cool place to be.
We loved it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Streets and Eats. If you liked what you heard, please show us some love, hit the like button, and leave us a review. Maybe even subscribe so you don't miss any future podcasts. Also, we'd love it if you joined us on our Facebook private group, Streets and Eats, where we just have an ongoing conversation about all things travel. Ciao for now.